Hello everyone, I'm going to do a couple of videos today. I do have quite a bit of information on this case, so it could be a bit of a video. This week's Murder Case Monday, just one sec, there we go, that's a bit better, is about the Mcstay family. As I mentioned in the Jameson family video I did last week, there's correlations between the two cases. The only difference is this one is, we think it's solved, which I'll go into. There's also another difference that I'll get into eventually. Next week's case is a look at the truth about the Amityville case, and there's a reason why. Last 10 years or so there has actually been a new theory which has been substantiated by the person who is in prison for the murders. Like I said, I'll leave that for next week's video. So today's video is about the Mcstay family. Now, they were found murdered in the desert near Victorville, California on November the 13th. 2013, the remains were found in shallow graves, if I believe rightly. But they disappeared from their family home in Fallbrook, California, February 4th, 2010. Now, I'll start from the beginning. On February 4th, 2010, at 7:47 PM, a neighbour surveillance system recorded a vehicle, later confirmed not to be the Mcstay vehicle, but was initially thought to be the Mcstay vehicle, in footage, but the occupants couldn't be seen. It was identified not to be the Mcstay vehicle because the muffler was different. At 8:28 PM, a call was placed between Joseph Mcstay's cell, which is the father of the family. The family is Joseph Mcstay, Summer Mcstay, Joseph Matteo Martelli Mcstay, and Gianni Giuseppe Martelli Mcstay. The latter two were both children. One was 5, one was 3 at the time of the deaths, at the disappearances. However, the parents were both, one was a little over 40 and the other was a couple of years older than him. Someone was a couple of years older than her husband. So 8:28 PM, the father of the family, Joseph's cell phone, called Mcstay's business partner, Merritt, who's called Charles Chase Merritt, went to voicemail. Merritt later told police he ignored it because he was watching a film. The cell phone pinged from a tower in Fallbrook. There were several different people attempted to contact the Mcstays within subsequent days with no luck. On February 15th, Joseph's brother Mike climbed into an open window at the house. He didn't find his brother or his family. The family's 2 dogs were in the backyard. There was also no evidence of a police were alerted prior to Mike's entering the family's house, but did not act until after Mike went into the house. There was no evidence of foul play or struggle, but there was indications of hasty departure. The family, his 1996, a zero trooper was towed from a strip mall parking lot in San Isidro, San Diego. I'm not good at pronouncing these things, I'm sorry. They believe that the car was parked there between 5:50 and 7 PM that evening. 11 PM, the vehicle was towed. The car's location from February the 4th to February the 8th is unknown. November the 11th, 2013. So there was like 3-year gap where almost nothing was done. A motorcyclist found 4 sets of remains buried near Victorville, California. Patrick Mcstay, Joseph's father, was informed of the discovery and phoned missing persons advocate Jerry Dean of Missing Persons of America to tell her what the news. Jerry then stated on her blog that when Patrick phoned her, she asked if she could tell her audience what has been found and what he knew and what he had told her. They didn't realise until after that, the following day, what that was going to cause with the media. There was this huge and big media fanfare the following day. 2 days later, the remains were officially positively identified as those of the family. The death was ruled as a homicide, and authorities of Santa Bernardino, I can pronounce that one, County, said that they believed the family died of blunt force trauma inside the house, but didn't release the details surrounding the motive. Now, when I said last week that with the Jameson family, because there was no evidence of the murder on the remains, which were skeletal, they couldn't identify a cause of death. Blunt force trauma does affect the skeleton, especially if it's here. Usually, if, say, I was to hit somebody over the head with a hammer, it would cause a skull fracture. If I was to hit somebody in the arm with a hammer, it would probably break their arm. Anything like that. It's like if you're in a car accident, 9 times out of 10, unless you are extremely lucky. Okay, perfect example. We all know Jenna and Julian were in a car accident last year, and they were lucky not to have any broken bones, but they had bruised bones, which means that there would have been evidence of bruising on the ribs from where they went forward, that would have caused discoloration in the ribs after death. It's that type of thing. It's like anything that would impact the skeleton, which blunt force trauma 9 times out of 10 does, unless it's on what they call a soft part of the body, which is like here, especially in someone like me, but even in normal people, because essentially from the ribs down to your pelvis, from the bottom of your ribs to the top of your pelvis, other than your spine, which is right at the back, you've got just literally soft. So the only time there would be no skeletal negations if the blunt force trauma was there, which could still cause death, even by just rupturing certain organs, it will cause death. Also worth mentioning that there was a fight that it was speculated that the family had run off to Mexico. However, there are several reasons why this was discounted by most people who knew the family and the police. The family knew of the high criminality and the whole drug war that's going on in Mexico, and they didn't like that. They didn't like living so close to Mexico, I don't think. So they would not have taken their kids to Mexico. It was something they'd always tried to hide the kids away from. The reason why this was speculated is because there was a search on the computer on how you can take your kids to Mexico. While the father had a valid passport, Summer's passport was expired and the children didn't have one. Like I said, one was 7, one was 3. And I think up to 2 you could be on your parents, but after 2, I don't know, it might even be different now. But I think at the time it was a different way. And also they would have needed a passport. You don't need a passport to get into Mexico, but you need a passport to get back into the US. Obviously the bodies were found in the US. The reason why there was speculation is because there was a family that looked similar to the family from the back on CCTV footage at the crossing, which has obviously later been thought to be, no, it's just a coincidence type of thing. Yeah, there is the saying there's no such thing as coincidence, but it just looked like the family had gone over to Mexico when they hadn't. But it is worth mentioning that that was a situation, which is one of the reasons why the police was like, we don't know not 100% sure, but eventually they do realise that things didn't add up. The bank accounts with substantial funds remained untouched, although there was speculation that they were on the verge of losing the family home, which was denied by a family who found no evidence of financial issues while they were dealing with the family's funerals and personal effects. The mother, Summer, had been known by numerous names and was 10 years older than the age that she claimed she was. The family members who knew Summer insisted that the name change was only a facet of Summer's eccentric personality, which I can understand because I'm not exactly normal myself, am I? Chase Morris was investigated. There were several reasons for this. He was the last person to have had contact with Joseph Mcstay because during the day, a couple of hours before the family went missing, he spent quite a while with them. He was the first to notice the disappearance. He had had felony convictions for burglary, receiving stolen property, and was an acquaintance of Merrick's from told a San Diego reporter, "I think police should look at him and anyone associated with him." So there was a lot of mistrust about Merrick, which, reading the stuff I've read about him, I can understand why. He admitted he spent 1 hour with Joseph the day the family went missing. Did nothing to help solve the disappearance at all. He literally did nothing. It was mainly Joseph's family that did a lot of the work and did a lot of the pushing. There was a Dateline in a 2020 episode of this case that I've seen, and I would definitely recommend it. They are very, very in depth, and they even look at the crossing, they look at everything. They speak to Joseph's family. He had a gambling problem. He wrote 21,000 worth of cheques from Joseph Mcstay's business accounts in the days after they were killed. Now, they were saying the police think that they were killed the night of this disappearance, the night of the of February the 4th. So they think that was the night that the family was killed, and they hold him partially responsible. Well, they think he is responsible. All 4 victims have been beaten with a blunt object. The investigators believe the murder weapon was a £3 sledgehammer, which was found in the grave where Summer Mcstay and one of the sons were buried. The investigators testified that they believed the victims were tortured before they were killed. Currently, as of October last year, I don't know whether this has changed, I don't think so though, but Merritt is still waiting for trial. He's been arrested, he's been under arrest for a while. But we think that he is probably going to go to trial, if not this year, next year, hopefully. I can only imagine what these family are going through. I would dread to think how I would deal with something like this. It's horrible, and the pain that the family must be in, especially with the loss of 2 children, 1 7, 1 3, isn't good. Like I said, next week is the DeFeo one, which I'm going to record straight after this. So don't be a lot alarmed if you see next week's episode we're in the same topic. It's just because I'm going to record the 2 together, so then I've got it ready. And then I'll probably do the weekend videos and the Tuesday videos as well. So, because I have a lot of videos planned and I want to get as many done. Then all I have to do is the editing. So, right, stay safe, have fun, be good, and I will see you tomorrow.